And now, another actual 5-star iTunes review of the podcast, read by Adam's buddy, Oswaldo.
Start my day, I'll listen to Adam and the gang. Over the taking the going in the country. Lo Adam sorting about the childhood that related.
Word. Go to iTunes, rate and review the podcast, and maybe Ozzy will butcher your review too. Now, back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Colion Noir is here. I saw him on Bill Maher about 4 or 5 weeks ago in the prestigious spot at the beginning where you sit in, where you get to sit in and do a one-on-one where Bill puts you because you're big time and or you would argue with everyone if you went to the panel. So good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
So let's talk guns. I think you have a pretty good group to talk to here because everyone here is fairly agnostic. Like we're not in really one camp or the other. I'm a great believer in sort of, I'd rather focus on what bad people do with guns rather than blame the guns, but all right. Misconceptions. What are some of the big misconceptions?
Well, mechanically, generally speaking, is the distinction between an assault rifle and an AR-15. So in some of these more public shootings that we've had where a rifle was used, those are AR-15s. That is the civilian version of an assault rifle, which is what soldiers use. And the distinction being with an assault rifle, you pull the trigger once and it will completely deplete the magazine. As fast
as you hold it back.
Yeah,
full automatic.
So imagine if you had 30 rounds in a magazine. You pull the trigger once, you could dispense all 30 of those rounds by pulling the trigger once and holding it.
Yeah, I've talked to some special ops guys and stuff, and they just go, yeah, we never set ours to full automatic because it's a waste. It's like they want to hit their target. They don't want to have to refill it every 1.3 seconds or whatever it takes. You go full automatic, and you're through your whole clip in 2 seconds, right?
And I think largely the reason why people make such a big deal about it is because we're kind of a victim of our own. It's partly it's the theatrics of seeing a fully automatic gun go. You know, it's pretty grandiose. It's like, oh my gosh, it's loud and it's rapid. It's very quick. While at the same time seeing what we see in the movies. You know, and so people tend to correlate fully automatic with more lethality.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So how many guns are out there in circulation as far as we know here in the United States?
We're pushing or past 400 million.
Right. So Ted Nugent has 200 million.
Right.
Then there's everyone else who has one gun. No, it's a weird number, but I think the average gun owner has like 11 guns or something. Like it's a thing. It's like I'm into cars. I got a bunch of cars. I don't have 1.5 cars. I have a bunch of cars. Wait, do they know what the average guy, the guy who's into it has?
You know, there's a bunch of different stats. There's some stats out there, like Bill Maher even brought it up, the idea that the vast majority of the collection of firearms are in a very small number of people's hands. And generally speaking, most people have maybe 1 or 2 guns. I think personally it's kind of hard to say because there are so many guns that are just inherently unaccounted for.
Right.
In terms of just, like you can take all the surveys you want, but at the end of the day, there's still kind of this idea of I'm not going to let you know what guns or how many guns I have.
My sort of take on it is, no matter what rules you lay down, like, hey, this is a gun-free zone, will be respected by all the guys driving the Priuses with the coexist bumper sticker, but it's not going to be respected by the guy who's a homicidal maniac. Like, all that says to him is, hey, happy hunting. Like, this is a gun-free zone.
Mine will be the only gun out of this roof.
Feels like a soft target to me. The advertising that it's a gun-free zone seems like the worst idea ever.
I think it's a terrible idea. However, it is definitely an idea that a lot of people evolve into. So I think what tends to happen is you get people who don't own firearms and know very much about them. They never carry them. They don't have them. So their mindset is very, very much in their head, not reality. And so once people start to get into firearms and carry guns and do so legally, it's like, well, damn, the only thing really stopping me from carrying this gun in here is my decision to carry legally. If I really just wanted to carry a gun in here, I could. No one searched me. I didn't go through a metal detector. And it's a reality that doesn't really strike you until you actually start carrying a gun for a lot of people. And so that's why I think there are a lot of people out there who think that you could put a sign on a window and it would somehow magically prevent somebody who understands as a criminal, I'm going to go here and commit carnage. The last thing I'm worried about is breaking the law that tells me I'm not allowed to bring my gun in here. I'm about to go shoot a bunch of people.
Yeah, if you don't kill yourself or not killed by a SWAT team member and you go to court, the part where you brought your gun into a gun-free zone is going to be way down. They're going to talk about all the people you murdered and probably parking as well if it happens in L.A. Parking will be first.
Yeah.
And then we'll get to the part where you brought your car into a gun-free zone, but you'll be up for the death penalty before that. To get to that part, so it doesn't make sense to me. But what are some of your thoughts? I think I think the school shootings are something that really captures the imagination, for lack of a better term, of Americans. Like that's the one where we really go. That is our sort of on land shark attack. It's like it's never going to happen statistically to you or your kid, but I'm not going out in that water, man. Shark attack. Like at that shooting at a school, man. That freaks everybody out. And so my take is sort of statistically it's not going to happen to my kids. But if somebody said, here's my plan, I would listen. Do you have thoughts about what goes on school campuses?
So with the school shootings, as you pointed out, they are statistically very marginal. And I hate saying that because the consequences when they do happen are horrific, right?
Sure.
But I do think with the school shootings, what it does is it forces people to confront their vulnerability or the vulnerability of the thing that they love the most, which is their kids. Right? Because we think that we send our kids off to these institutions and they're essentially safe havens, and as well as they should be. But, we come to realize that, man, like we can do everything and something can still go wrong. And we may not be as protected against violence in a way that we may have thought we were, especially if I have a very utopic perspective on the world or in the cities and the places that I live, because these school shootings are happening in places where people least expect it. Right.
I know.
Do you think school shootings are like an existential crisis? Like, what can be done? I, like you said earlier, the carnage. I think we're all on the same page. We just want less of the carnage.
Yeah.
What common sense, realistic things can be done to stop either the wrong people? I want every law-abiding, responsible gun owner to have as many guns as they want.
Yeah.
I don't want the crazy people and the bad people to get them. What can we do instead of being obstructionist, which... You have to admit the NRA can be a little obstructionist when it comes to this kind of stuff. What can we do? What can be done to stop carnage?
So my mindset goes to, okay, there's already a problem. So I start at the ground level, right? So I say, well, we need to harden the schools. That's my first thought process because what you're asking me is something that's going to have to take time to get to.
Sure.
And then, as you pointed out, a lot of times with respect to parenting, for instance, which would pretty much solve a lot of the violence issues that we tend to have in this country.
Parenting?
Yeah.
Yes, it factors in.
Yes.
It factors in.
That will help things 18 years down the road. What's going to happen in the ensuing?
And I think
it could help tomorrow as well if everyone got off the fucking shit. Oh, hey, find me for shits and giggles. Somebody asked my favorite Maxine Waters what was the problem with all the rise in gangbanging shootings and stuff going on in Los Angeles. She had some very succinct answers. You can find that. It just reminded me about that. But yes,
so
parenting
Colion
would be
was,
nice. But go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No. So I say if we look at, for instance, like we take for instance Chicago, right? The violence that's happening in places like Southside Chicago. They have a ton of shootings in Southside Chicago. When was the last school shooting in Southside Chicago?
No one's at school.
So there you go.
That's not
Gotcha.
fair.
They're all
Gotcha, the
latching kids.
They're all
technicality.
outside shooting each
That's
other.
not fair. But
Yeah.
let's take into account the people who are in school, right?
All right.
So we don't have those shootings, but there are tons of shootings that are happening outside of the school,
Right.
Right. And so one of the distinctive factors is those schools tend to have metal detectors.
Good point.
Right? There are tons of guns around, but they have metal detectors. But when I bring up the idea of metal detectors, say for instance in this last
It's
shooting in
bad
Parkland,
optics. It looks
well, yeah,
ugly.
because no one wants no one wants
Kids
to
feel like
No one wants to
prisoners
admit that there's this
Exactly.
problem.
I don't, my feeling, and that's a very astute point, which is guns everywhere, shooting everywhere, but not at the school. Maybe they get it out of their system before on their way to school. Like, hey, who you want to shoot a gun? My arm's tired.
Again?
My trigger finger's
Guys, it's
sore.
8:30. Come at me after lunch.
It's not funny. My point is this. Yeah, those schools are hardened and they have metal detectors, and they always do that thing where it's like, hey, if it could happen here, it could happen everywhere. Well, probably not in a place that's got a problem with violence and metal detectors. Now, in terms of metal detectors, you go through buildings in anyone has gone through a building in Manhattan. Anyone's gone through an airport to get to Manhattan. I mean, that's the craziest part about arguing about ID that was always funny is like when you go up to the NPR building and do an interview, you have to show them your ID and get a badge and go through a detector. It's like, you guys have it in your own lobby. Why can't we? Why not to have it to vote? Like, come on now.
Who gets to be safe?
So we are getting pretty comfortable with passing through these metal detectors as a kind of daily part of life. Again, flying to New York and just make your rounds in New York. Go to Sirius XM and go to this, go to Fox, go to CNN or whatever. Right. It's all through the security. So I agree with you. Like, let's harden it up. Yeah. Let's just get that.
Because I think there's also inconsistency of philosophy for people who are like, oh, I don't want to make the kids feel like they're in a prison. But some of y'all live in gated communities.
Yeah. You should have seen North Hollywood High. That was a prison. They had the bars up community. On every window. It looked like an institution. The food was worse.
Because what is prison but a gated community?
That's right.
Wow.
Write that down.
We live in the age of Apple. Get somebody from Apple to design the damn metal detectors and make them look pretty.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
ergonomic.
No, do a thing. Let me tell you that this half of the show, brought to you by TommyJohn.com/am and Geico. Geico.com. Yeah, do a thing where you get something that's cool and, got good vibes and ponies on it or something. And then you just do a community fundraiser, bake-off, charity basketball game, like whatever it is. Like just, rustle up the $2,800 or whatever the unit cost or $5,000 or whoever, figure out a way to make a sort of cheapish, inexpensive sort of one that had some ergonomics to it.
Right.
And then just harden it up.
Can I ask you this follow-up question then? Because I agree with you. I would love to. My 2-year-old daughter goes to daycare, and it is a hard target. It's very hard to get in, even if you know the gate code. But my follow-up thought is that for the people who want to cause carnage, they want to cause mass carnage. Their first thought is a school, a very soft target. Let's harden them up. Great, that's awesome. Less school shootings. Wouldn't that person then be like, all right, I'm going to go shoot up the Trader Joe's, or I'm going to go shoot up the library?
Well, LAPD shoots up the Trader Joe's.
Whatever the next soft target is, would it not be smarter to look at the other end of that equation, which is let's keep guns out of the hands of the wrong people?
Now, on paper, that sounds amazing.
It does. Right? Can it be done?
Yeah. But see,
I think it's dismissive to say it sounds good on paper. Let's make it good in real life. Is there a way to do it?
What I was getting at is,
sorry,
no, you're good. The conversation definitely needs to happen, right? And so my biggest critique is on a national stage, that conversation isn't really. It's not a conversation. It's a political sparring match.
It's grandstanding.
Exactly. So let's talk those points out. The problem is we're not going to figure them out on sound bites on cable news, right?
Or a podcast for that.
Exactly. So like when people like to mention like mental health, like there needs to be a mental health evaluation. So I say, okay, let's have that conversation. And so I start asking questions. I say, okay, well, what's going to preclude somebody from owning a firearm based on their mental stability? Is somebody who's dealing with anxiety going to be precluded? Just because you have anxiety doesn't mean you're inherently
need a list of actual the off limits, on limits.
Exactly. And so then my question then becomes, what does that really do after the fact? Because let's say, for instance, someone is perfectly fine and normal, and then something sets them off based on some predisposition that they had and we didn't know they had. And so now they still have those guns, and then they go out and they commit mass carnage. So then what do we do after that? Are we going to say, all right, like that's the thing. It's the slippery slope that runs us all the way down to the ultimate conclusion of ban all guns.
At a certain sad point, there has to be an acceptable. Like you can't, the sad reality is you really could never prevent all of it. So
Born Identity.
What's that?
Born Identity.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be fine.
That's right.
Don't worry about it.
Well, I mean, I think the idea. So, for instance, like not here because I'm precluded from carrying a firearm here because my license isn't recognized. But when I'm in Texas, I carry a gun on me almost 90% of the time. However, I don't carry the gun thinking that I'm absolutely going to be able to protect my life. I just want to have a fighting chance.
It increases your chances.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Have you ever been to the water park with Colion? It is awesome. Got that
sidearm
strapped on.
That's right.
Looks good in his trunks.
I gotta
Going
say,
down the slide.
I gotta
That's
say, I've mastered the art of carrying. I'm pretty sure I can figure out a way to carry.
I'd
a gun
love to
sometimes.
see you. I know where I'd keep mine. In the front, not in the back. Back, you could be mistaken for something horrible. Front. That guy's
Stitch your
packing.
tail.
Oh God.
All right. Any? Do you have some Maxine Waters thing out there?
Oh, we're going over. We
You can find it. You're good.
any other specific keywords?
Somebody just interviewed her. It was a while back, I think. I want to know about the increase in gang violence.
Is it- does this
she
look
was
familiar?
she was looking into it.
I
I just heard the audio, but
Oh, okay.
probably it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it for fun.
okay, well,
Or
we'll
you
cue it up.
you can fix that. You'll find it. I'll tell you about Tommy John first. Summer's here, man. You're gonna hit the water park with your pistol. I was in the pool last night with my Tommy Johns, and I'll tell you why. I like to give my nanny a little something, something. You know, a little eye candy.
Lucky
Call it
Olga.
bonus.
Shouldn't all be work. You know what I mean?
You can have fun on the job.
But I tell you, man,
Gotta
it
love
was
what you
hot.
do.
I got down in my Tommy Johns. I was playing with the kids in the pool, and they dry super fast. You can outsmart the heat with your men and women's underwear. Cool cotton underwear from Tommy John, and the fabric dries 4 times faster, keeps you 3 times cooler.
How many times?
3 times.
3 times, fool.
Yeah, then traditional cotton, no swamp-like conditions down below. Tommy John's moisture wicking fabrics pull the perspiration right off of your body. Backed by the best pair you'll ever wear, or its free guarantee. Find your oasis with the new cool cotton from Tommy John. No ifs, ands, or swamp butts. What about it, Dawson?
Hurry to TommyJohn.com/Adam for 20% off your first order. That's TommyJohn.com/Adam for 20% off. TommyJohn.com/Adam.
All right, let's see. I'm doing Kimmel tonight, if you're listening to this on Thursday. And, God, it's a busy damn day. Got the pod, doing Kimmel, and then doing a thing with Oscar De La Hoya and Mickey Ward where we're breaking down the Ward
Fight.
breaking down the Ward Gotti fight.
The trilogy or like the first fight?
I think we're breaking down the first fight. Gotti would be there, but he died in like Puerto Rico when he was hanging on a purse by his neck that they thought was suicide, but they also blame his like
Black
Puerto
Widow.
Rican wife or something. And there's it's a little tough in places don't really have laws to try to get to the bottom of crime, you know? It's like, the cops showed
What
up.
happens?
They said everything was cool and they went home. Like, oh, where's
Case
the evidence?
closed.
They ate it. Okay. It's tough when someone you love dies.
What's going on, folks? This is Colion Noir. If you like what you saw in this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button that should be located on the bottom left portion of the screen. I mean, come on. Who you fooling? I know you want to.